Hi, so there's obviously this narrative going around that I like hate Palworld or something. I made this video criticizing some of the designs in Palworld, and I guess that just means I hate the game, even though I think I praised it more than I said anything negative. But hey, go watch it yourself. It's a nice 3-minute video. So I figured today would be a good time to make a tier list of all the designs that are currently released in Palworld, and we're just gonna put them in 3 categories. We have the original design category, 50/50, and borrowed design. Because honestly, I don't think these designs, for the most part, are as bad as people will have you believe. I'm one of the people that have been criticizing the designs the most, and even I'm going to come out and say, this guy right here, this little sheep guy, I think it's an original design. Maybe they were inspired by Wooloo in the sense of they wanted to make a sheep monster that attacks by rolling or something, but in terms of like there's no copying of like it's an original design. I actually really like the sheep monster. Maybe original design, I need to clarify a bit more. When I say original design, I don't mean that Palworld invented sheep monsters. I just mean that compared to Pokemon, there's no like yoinked assets or whatever. And just so you guys aren't like squinting at the screen, if there's a monster that's hard to see like this guy right here, I'll get a better image up when we're talking about him. The next one is this Anubis type monster. Oh, is it literally just called Anubis? I don't actually know if this is its name or not. I know I made a joke about it in my video, but like honestly, it doesn't really share much else with Lucario besides being just based on Anubis. So maybe Palworld decided they wanted to make an Anubis monster because they saw Pokemon has an Anubis monster. I feel like that's how a lot of these designs maybe came to be. But in terms of like actual like I don't really like what is there here. Like it doesn't have the same colors really. It's just Anubis. I'll give this one a pass, honestly. I don't like, you can, I think the big reason and I think like what's important here is I want to dial things back a bit because I think people are being way too nitpicky at this point. There are obviously some designs here that maybe overstepped a boundary in my opinion, and because of that every other design is being like put up into question. And I mean, I think fair, kind of, yeah, I think, yeah. So yeah, looking back on it, this Anubis design, I think it's original. You know what, just to make our life easier, shout out to Video Game News for the Palworld All Monsters and Locations video. We're just gonna look at this video instead of a wiki page. So yeah, we covered Lemon. Next up, Catavia. Now, as much as I think this thing is ugly, I can't really see it being anything related to Pokemon. It's ugly, right? But it's an original design. I just think the face is really, I don't know about it. I'm not a big fan of him. Chickpea, it's quite literally a chicken. Like there's nothing to see here. This is an original design. Lifmunk, I've seen a lot of people say that this thing is like Pachirisu and Leafeon fused, but I don't see it. I mean, I think because people are like putting this game under a microscope, you could like make a connection to most Pokemon. But yeah, I think that this is honestly an original design. Next up, we have Foxparks, which is obviously going to be compared to Vulpix. I mean, it's just a Firefox, man. Like we've got a web browser called Firefox. There's Naruto's Firefox. It's an original design as far as I'm concerned. I want to make this known that I'm only comparing these to Pokemon. I have heard that there are some other franchises that Palworld may have borrowed from. I personally don't really know many other franchises besides Pokemon, so I can only really speak on Pokemon. Next up is Fuak. People probably want to compare it to Psyduck. I mean, body proportion wise, it's like somewhat similar. It's kind of like the head and the body have swapped. Like its head is big and its body's small, whereas Psyduck is the opposite. But again, it's an original design. Now this is the first one I'll say that I'm 50/50 on, because if you look at this guy, it's basically got Raichu's tail, which you know, I think is but besides that, yeah, I mean, it's just a little electric dude. So I'm gonna put it in the 50/50 just because it's pretty much got Raichu's tail. Maybe it's a nitpick, but it's just what I'm personally going with. Tansy, again, another original design. People keep comparing it to like Grookey and stuff like that, but like, guys, I'm sorry, it's just a grass monkey. Pokemon don't own monkeys. They don't own the elemental type grass. I think Tansy's an original design. And I think this is what's so frustrating for me, right? Is because there are some phenomenal original designs here in Palworld, and yet they still decided to yoink from Pokemon, you know? Like very clearly. Next is Ruby. I can't really think of anything of that. You could maybe say Ponyta, but like it doesn't look anything like Ponyta besides it being a fire horse. Original design. I've seen this one compared to Piplup because it's a water penguin. I mean, this thing is water ice, to be fair. Design wise, it looks nothing like Piplup. I mean, like I've been saying though, like it's very possible that Palworld were like, oh, well, I mean, to be fair, penguins like I think are just naturally going to be associated with the water, right? Because I don't know, it's like actually kind of, yeah, you know, Pangullet and Penking, these guys are original designs. I mean, this thing looks like a Kirby boss more than anything. Jolhog, I'm a little iffy on because like its body is very similar to Shaman, but at the same time, outside of making it Sonic the Hedgehog, how else do you like, you know, make a, I mean, there is plenty of ways you can make a hedgehog character, right? But if that's the way they wanted to do it, fair enough. I will say I think I will just put it in 50-50 because maybe they could have done a bit more to distinguish it. I'm not going to outright say it's a borrowed design. This is a crystal Jolhog. I mean, there's not really much else to be said here. I don't know why my camera keeps... I mean, I don't really know what you can compare this to, like Clodsire or something. That's an original design, I'm sorry. And you got Vixie, which is kind of just like a little fella. Like, I mean, the name is kind of meh. It's a neutral type, and I don't know, it's good for like mining and stuff like that, farming rather. It's good for being in the ranch, I guess. That's gameplay though. Yeah, I mean, it's an original design. I can't really like what would I compare it to? Like Eevee? I think it's different enough. There is already one that is very much Eevee. This one is not though. We got Hookrates, which I think is actually personally my favorite pal right now. That could definitely change, but I love this little guy. It's a dark bird, which, you know, mind comes to Honchcrow and Murkrow. I would personally say that no, it's an original design. I mean, they don't have any like, it's not like the same body type or anything. Yeah, it's Hookrates. I literally learned that yesterday. It's Hookrates, not Hookrates. That's so funny. But yeah, it's that's an original design for sure. T-Fint, I mean, like we didn't really get an elephant Pokemon until very recently, and this looks nothing like it. So original design again. People compare Depresso to Esper. I can kind of see it, but like this honestly might be one of the most, in terms of what I know, this might be one of the most creative names. Its ability is that it's like got a caffeine addiction and it's depressed, and it's called Depresso, like espresso. Like it's so funny and clever, and it's something you would never see from Pokemon. I don't necessarily like it, but it's an original design. As far as like as far as I think in terms of like crossing a boundary of like copying too much, I think that's an original design. Next up we have Cremis, which that is definitely just an Eevee, so I'm gonna have to say that it's a borrowed design. I don't think if Eevee didn't exist, they would be able to come to this conclusion. And I think that's gonna be what this comes down to. I think for 50-50 and borrowed design, if Pokemon didn't already exist, they maybe wouldn't have been able to come to this design conclusion that they did, basically. And more, maybe you could say that about some of the original designs. Like maybe you could say that about this duck, and maybe you could say that about Hookrates, but nah, those are fine. Next up is actually another one of my favorites, is Daydream. This thing gives me like Hoopa energy in terms of just like its attitude, but overall it's an original design. I can't really think of anything that it looks similar to. Big fan of Daydream. Rushore, I mean, it's kind of just like a boar. Like I don't even know if anyone's compared this to anything else. Original design. Now Nox gives me sort of like Zoroa type vibes. Kind of looks similar to Nidoran female in terms of like colors, but like I don't think that those are borrowed aspects necessarily. I mean, it's an original design. It's maybe not a great one in my personal opinion, but it's not taken from Pokemon in my opinion. Next up we have the funniest name in all of Palworld, Fuddler. I don't know why this guy's called Fuddler, but it's so funny to me. I mean, people compare it to Drillbur. I think body shape wise I can kind of see where you're coming from. You know, Drillbur, he's like this little short guy with like his arms touching the ground. In that regard, Fuddler is similar to that, but besides that, it's original. And this is like what I mean. People are just getting to the point where they nitpick, because I think usually in a vacuum, if you see Fuddler here, I don't think you're going to compare it to Drillbur, but with everything else that's got going on, of course people are going to nitpick. And for the record, I don't think it's cool for people to nitpick. I'm kind of over it at this point, and that's why I'm making this video, because like, yes, there are some clear take-in designs here, but there's not as much as you would think, in my opinion. Killamari, it's just a cute little squid. You can compare it to Inkay, but like, I think it's like closer to Splatoon, if anything. Like, I don't know. It's just a squid. Like, I don't know. I can't in good confidence say that it's taken from Pokemon, so I'm gonna just say it's an original design. Now we have Mao, which I mean, like right away, body shape wise and like color wise, it reminds me of Umbreon, but like it's a completely different thing. Conceptually, it's got like a different gimmick going on. I think Mao is an original design. There's Crystal Mao, which again, you know, same thing, original design. Celeray, which I mean, you can maybe compare as like, oh, it's a Mantine and Togekiss fusion, but that's like, but like in a, like just looking at it on its own, I think it's an original design. Maybe I'm stretching the word original too much here. What I'm just trying to say is I don't think they've really borrowed assets from Pokemon here. Maybe they've taken ideas and concept, which some people still might not be okay with. But yeah, I think it gets a pass. I think Celeray's fine. Original design. Sorry. Original design here. Dire Howl. This is one of the big ones that's been starting a lot of controversy online. I will say, I think this thing is a borrowed design. You can argue like, oh, how else do you make a wolf? But like, there's plenty of ways you can make a wolf, and I think this one's just a bit too close to Lycanroc. I'm gonna say they borrowed it. They borrowed this design from Pokemon. This one, Toko Toko, has been compared to Xatu, just for the colors. I like it. I don't know if I agree. It's hard, right? Because it does have like the same color scheme as Xatu, but I don't know if we can really start like copyrighting a color scheme. You know, I'm gonna say it's an original design. Floppy, this thing compared to Tinkaton, but I'm pretty sure this thing was shown in footage before Tinkaton even existed, as far as the public's aware. So original design. I actually really like this monster, by the way. The next one is Moz Arena, which I actually saw a post about. Apparently it used to just be more of like a generic cow, but people think that they changed it to be more like Snorlax, you know, with the sleepy face and the fangs. I can get where they're coming from, but like there's not really a Pokemon that looks like this, and if they borrowed the fat sleepy guy idea from Pokemon, I don't think that's like a super I don't know. They could have put it on like at least they put it on an original monster. Like they put it on a cow instead of like, I guess, a bear or whatever Snorlax is. I don't think that the face is an exact copy either. So I'm gonna say it's an original design. Maybe I'm being too lenient here, but I think it's an original design. Next up, we have the classic sexy grass type. I'm kidding. I like this thing a lot, actually. I actually got a shiny one, or a lucky one, and it killed me. Or rather, the Decidueye sort of guy killed me. But I mean, overall, I think it's an original design. I mean, it's just a plant monster. I can't really, like, you can maybe compare it to like Roserade and stuff, but I feel like that's just a stretch. Gobfin, this is actually one I've not seen before. Original design. I don't really, I mean, maybe it's another franchise has like been, I can maybe see it being from another franchise, but like, I think it's an original design. We got Hangyu, which is apparently when the game was first coming out, people were saying that this was like stolen from a fan, but it turns out that they had this in trailers before the fan even drew it. So it's definitely an original design. Mossanda, the first thing that comes to mind obviously is like Pangoro, but I mean, it's just a panda. I wouldn't compare it to Pangoro. Its body's different enough, and I actually quite like its design. And I don't think Moxanda Lux is on the tier list here, but this is another one. It's like an electric type Moxanda. This one kind of's got like Toxtricity sort of hair, but like, I don't know if I would even count that as like borrowed, to be honest, or 50-50. I think it's fine. I think it's an original design. Woolly Pop, I saw people talk about it being like all creamy, but like, I mean, I guess it's just based on candy though. Like, are they not allowed to make cotton candy monsters? I don't know. Like, I think this one's fine. Caprivity, I can't really see any issues with this one, honestly. I think this one's fine. Malpaca, color wise, it's like similar to Flaffy, but I don't know. I can't speak if that was the intention or not, but I think like it's, yeah, I don't think I can say that it's borrowed. Like, its eyes are different. That's what I wanted to mainly check for. Its eyes are different to Flaffy's. It's got different like wool patterns. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is an original design. Then we've got I don't even know how to say this thing. People compare it to Xerneas, but I wouldn't personally. It's just a deer, man. It's just a funky deer. I'm gonna say it's an original design. This one might be controversial, but I think this is definitely borrowed from Staraptor. I just think the colors and like, I mean, like body shape wise, it's not the same. It's definitely different, but I just think like the idea was definitely borrowed. I'll put it in 50-50 because at least it has original model, but like I think there's definitely some inspiration from Staraptor here. Ribbunny, I can't really see anything wrong with this one. Maybe like a bunny Sylveon, but yeah, I'll say it's an original design. Next up is Incineram, which is like Zoroark, Houndoom, and Yveltal colors. Like, that's kind of like the first thing I saw when I saw it, but like, I mean, it's not a dog, it's a ram. Yeah, I mean, outside of like the colors and like it's a fire dark type, Yeah, I'd say it's original, to be honest. Maybe not so much original in terms of like they came up with it themselves, like off the top of the dome, but like at least there's nothing super borrowed here, I would say. There's nothing I can outright be like, aha, they took this from Houndoom. Like Fire Dark, there's plenty of Fire Dark monsters. Ooh, the Nocturnal one's really cool. Cinemoth, I mean, it's just a moth, man. There's plenty of moth Pokemon. This thing's original. Arsox, I saw a lot of people comparing this to a monster from Pokemon Sage. I don't know if that's what was done here. I don't know if they took that from Pokemon Sage or not. Yeah, this guy right here. It's honestly so hard to say. I know, looking back on it, no, I don't think so. Comparing them like actually, I don't think so. I think it's just maybe it's the same concept. I think the body shape and stuff like that's different enough. I'll say it's an original design. We got Dumud, which clearly has Sobble's fin here. Besides that, though, I mean, it's similar to Clodsire. I don't know if this thing was like shown before Clodsire. I imagine it probably was. It's just a derpy sort of guy, though. So I'm gonna just say it's an original. No, it's not an original design. I'm gonna say it's 50-50. Cognito. This is one I actually really like the name and the design of. It's like a cool, like kind of Plague Doctor-y. I really like this. I can't wait to meet this thing. I think it's an original design. I can't really see like anything I would compare it to Pokemon with, so original design. Next is Leespunk, which is actually another one of my favorite monsters in this game. I think people would say it's like a Scrafty and Toxtricity fusion, but like it's more Toxtricity than anything. I think it's like just based on my criteria for this video, it's an original design. Maybe they were inspired by Toxtricity and like, you know, maybe they took like the sort of like the punk motif of it, but I mean, it's just a pure dark type. Yeah, no, I like him a lot, but yeah, it's an original design, I would say. I can't in good faith say it's 50-50 because it's just a punk lizard, which I think is like a common sort of theme. We got Loop Moon, which I mean, I can't really say it's similar to any Pokemon that I know of. I don't really like this thing. It's kind of ugly, but it's an original design. Gale Claw, I mean, people probably immediately want to compare it to Braviary, but Braviary is also an eagle. This thing is just also an eagle, so this is an original design. Robin Quill, which is definitely inspired by Decidueye, I want to say. It's just not a bird, but it has the same colors. It's got the same sort of like Archer idea. I want to say that without Pokemon's like influence, like this thing would not look like this. I'll say it's a borrowed design. Next we got Gory Rat, which I mean, I can't really think of anything that it's like similar to Pokemon, like maybe Zarude. It's not nearly the same. I'll say it's an original design. Beguard, yeah, original design. And then we have, of course, after Beguard, Elizabeth, which is kind of like a bigger version of it, so same original design. This thing is like one of the biggest like issues I have with this game. People love to harp on that like, oh, but Pokemon don't own the Cheshire Cat. Okay, I get that. I'm sorry though. Let me show you something. This thing has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teeth. It's got yellow eyes and it's got like a little white pupil. Galarian Meowth has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teeth, yellow eyes, and a white pupil. It's like basically just exactly ripped. Maybe the eyes are made a little bit smaller, but like it's exactly ripped from Galarian Meowth. They could have at least like made their own Cheshire Cat face, is all I'm trying to say. If it was the same sort of like idea for a face, sure. It's literally Galarian Meowth's face. So in that regard, it's a borrowed. It's 50-50. It's, I don't know, is it borrowed design or is it 50-50? Because it is just the face. Everything else of it is like original. I'll say 50-50. Next up, we have Sui. Can't really think of anything to compare it to. I'll say it's original. Same with Sweeper, just a bigger version of it. Original design. Chillet. A lot of people compare it to Furret, but like it's just the body shape that's similar to Furret, which Furret is a ferret. So I don't think that's valid. I think this thing's an original design for sure. I like Chillet a lot, actually. Univolt, color-wise, and like sort of, it's similar to Manectric, but like I don't know. That's kind of it. Just colors. It's similar to Manectric. Besides that, I think it's an original design. This next one's a bit weird. This is Foxicle. That's way too close to Galarian Ninetales in my opinion. I'm gonna say that's a borrowed design. As cute as it is definitely a borrowed design. Pyrin, yeah, I don't really care for this thing, but I can't really compare it to anything. I think it's an original design. Next up is Raindrix, which I've not actually seen yet. I think this one's original. I can't really see anything I'd compare this to. Not really a fan of it, but hey ho. Next up is Rayhound. Its head is kind of similar to like Lucario, I would say, but like I think that could just be a coincidence. Its tail is like a little bit of like extra steps on Raichu. It's like teetering to 50-50, but I'll say it's an original design. Next up is Kitsune, which Yeah, I mean, it's an original design. I don't think there's anything in Pokemon like that. Now we have Daisy, which I saw a lot of people compare to like the genies from Pokemon and like Marini or whatever. But I mean, there's Lakitu as well from Mario. I think this is an original design. I understand though that things like this are going to be under scrutiny because like some of them are obviously like borrowed. Like for example, this next few, Lunaris, this thing is like so similar to Mewtwo, but also kind of original in a way. I'll put it in 50-50. I think there's definitely borrowed aspects of it that is Mewtwo. Next up is Dinosaur, which I think is, and crossing that boundary, crossing that line a little bit too much. I think it is borrowed a bit from like Gudra and Meganium and Lilligant. I'll put it in 50-50 as well. Next up we have Surfent, which I mean, I can't really, Aracuda face maybe, kind of, sorta, but no, I wouldn't say so. I'll say it's original. We're getting into territory where I've not actually seen some of these guys. Oh, Mariath. Okay, yeah, that's original. That's definitely a monster. I think it's kind of creepy. As far as I'm aware, it's original. Sorry, original. Dig Toys. I actually really want to get this fella to help me dig up my mining, dig up my ore, sorry. Body wise, somewhat similar-ish to like Dreadnought maybe, but like, nah, this thing's original for sure. Original design. Combat, this next one, I saw a lot of people talk about it being similar to, I say a lot of people, I think it was mainly people in my community, comparing it to Gliscor. I think like thematically it's Gliscor, but I mean, and it's got like the same sort of body type as Gliscor. So you can make an argument that that is like 50-50, like borrowed, but I'm not really counting like borrowed, I guess, body shapes. Maybe, I don't know, because like, I don't know. This was a bit of a hard one. I think it's different enough to where it's an original design, but I'm glad that I'm doing this video because I'm definitely making notes of like, this is what people think the issue is. I think it's original enough. Then we've got Lovander, which is definitely, oh my God. Oh my God, yeah, this thing is definitely borrowed from Pokemon. Yeah, like it may not be like the exact same in terms of like the model or whatever, but like I don't think they get to this design without Salazzle, to be honest. Flamel, people compare it to like Litwick. I don't see it. It's an original design, I'm sorry. Vanworm, yeah, it's just kind of like an edgy bird. I can't really see it being anything else. It's an original design. We got Bushy, which is this guy right here. People compare it to like Hisuian Decidueye, which I can definitely see. I think I'll put it in 50-50. I think it's actually similar to a monster from Yokai Watch. But I still think, yeah, I think there's something going on there. Next up is Beacon, which I've actually not seen yet. I don't know. I can't really see it being similar to anything from Pokemon, so I'll say it's original. The thing is, right, I don't really like that. Like I don't really like this thing. Like there's so many of them where I'm just like, you could probably scrap those and make something better. But that's just my personal preference. I just think there's nothing that makes these guys like truly unique and stand out, you know? But that doesn't mean that they're like stolen designs. We got this Ragnahawk, which is actually really cool. He's actually really cool. I would say that's original design. Catris, I mean, like you could kind of say it's like similar to Brixen, but kind of not really. Same with this next one. Wixen, people talk about it being like similar to Brixen. I think it's just like, I think it's like similar to like maybe like a predicted evolution of Delphox. I don't know. Would they have come to this conclusion without Pokemon? I'm not sure. I really can't say. I'll say this one's original, and I'll say this one's like 50-50. It's like teetering, but that's like a light 50-50. This next one though, however, Verdash is definitely borrowed from Pokemon. Like that is literally just Cinderace. I'm sorry. This thing is probably one of the most borrowed of all. Valet, I've not actually seen this before. Kind of disgusting and ugly, but it's definitely original. Siblix, honestly, this thing kind of looks like an Ultra Beast. Kind of cool, actually. Kind of reminds me of I guess like the person from Legends Arceus, the lady that had like the Volo's mom or whatever the hell she was to him. Kind of reminds me of her, but I would say it's an original design. Alphadron, yeah, I can't really see this being, yeah, no, this is an original design. I mean, it's not necessarily a great design, but it's an original one. Got Kelpsy here, which is kind of like a weird sort of like Dratini Lapras type thing, but like, that's just me reaching. I think it's original. And the thing is, right, going through all this, maybe they did make Kelpsy after seeing Dratini and Lapras and they kind of fused the two. Maybe that is what they did here. But the thing is, we'll never know. So like, just based on like what we're seeing, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's original. This thing, however, is horrific. This thing looks like when people that are modding 3D like ROM hacks and stuff like that, and they like make their own custom Pokemon in those 3D ROM hacks, this looks like something that would come out of that. It just looks so amateur-ish. It's bad. This thing is bad. and it's, I think, I don't know if it's how true it is, but I think its body and its hair is just way too similar to Primarina and Superior. I'm gonna say that this one is a borrowed design, just, and it also just sucks. This thing is hideous, dude. I hate it. Cyrolinks, I don't know where I feel like I've seen this thing before. I don't really know. I feel like this thing like looks like something from Monster Hunter, to be honest. I don't know. I would say it's an original design just based on my definition. But yeah, it looks like something from Monster Hunter. Then we got Blaze Howl, which I've not seen yet actually. Okay, kind of looks crazy. Don't really care for it that much. I don't really care for designs like these. I'll say it's original though. People were comparing Relaxosaurus after this. Hold on. Relaxosaurus to Quagsire because of like the colors. It's got the goofy face, and it's got like the sort of like the back sort of design similar to Quagsire. It's a hard one. I don't know. Like, I can see where they're coming from. I do want to say it is different enough though to say it's an original design, so I'll say it's an original design. Then we got this one with the cool haircut, the Relaxosaurus Lux. Yeah, he's so cool. This thing, okay, this thing's definitely like borrowed. I'm sorry, like Meganium and like a few other things, definitely borrowed. There's an aqua one too. Oh my god, dude. Italia, god, this is tough. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think it's original, honestly. I don't think there's like any like aspects of this I can really relate to Pokemon. It's an original design. This guy, Reptyro, he's kind of awesome. I love him. I actually love him. I can't really compare this to anything. I mean, like, Terrakion is like the first thing that comes to mind, but like, nah, it's an original design. We got King Paka. This might be their most original design. This thing is awesome, dude. I love this guy. He's so cool. Definitely original. Mammorest, also definitely original. It's just a mammoth monster. I wouldn't compare it to anything from Pokemon. Next up, we've got Wumpo, which I didn't actually know that Wumpo was... Okay, I didn't realize that this was the original one, and then the botanical one is the one that's like weird and regional. I've only seen the botanical one. I'll say this one's 50-50 just because like body shape and the eyes are definitely inspired, I would say, by like Tangrowth. But like it is original in some ways, but I think there's just a bit too much borrowed from Tangrowth here. So I'll do 50-50. Warsect, this thing looks insane, but like I feel like it's definitely got some aspects borrowed from like Mega Aggron, for example. So I will, or sorry, just Aggron. Might just be the body shape though. You know, it's hard to say. I'll say it's original, but it's teetering. I would make a tier for like teetering, but I feel like it's just overcomplicating the tier list. So I'll say it's original, but definitely watch out. We've got Fanglobe next, which is, I think it's just way too close to Cobalion in a lot of ways, like body shape, color. I think it just took a little bit too much from Cobalion. So I will say it is a borrowed design. The next one I've not actually seen outside of the mugshot, which is Felbat. Oh, honestly, I thought this thing was like much closer to Absol than it actually is. I would say they probably were definitely inspired by Absol, but like they did something different with it, so it's hard to say. Maybe it's like 50-50. Like maybe it is kind of borrowed. It's teetering, just like this guy right here. It's really complicated. You know what, I'm gonna add another tier because like there is too many that are just like, we'll call it walking a thin line. I think I'll put these guys in there. That's pretty much those two. I can't really think of anyone else. Like maybe this thing, but yeah, let's go on. Quivern, oh my god, I've never seen this thing before. Yeah, I don't really like people compare it to Reshiram and Zekrom. Actually, I think I saw like the back end of it. It's just a white dragon. I don't think that qualifies it to be like based on Reshiram or whatever. I think it's an original design. Lazamut, oh my god, okay. This thing looks crazy. It looks like a Monster Hunter monster more than anything. I would say it's probably an original design. Halzephyr, I mean, it's just boring, isn't it? Like, it's just, this thing just looks tacky. Like, so many of these monsters at the end just look really tacky, in my opinion. Like, I feel like they're trying to make them look really badass and cool, but they just look tacky. Don't really care for this thing, but it's still probably original in the sense that it's just like not taken from Pokemon. Maybe not in the sense that it's like a good design. Astegon, yeah, this thing's like walking the thin line of like being borrowed from Mega Aggron. This thing's just too much, man. This design sucks, I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't know. I'll say it's walking a thin line because I do think its body is a bit too similar to Aggron's, for example. Oh, Menacing. Oh god. It's meant to be menacing, dude. This thing has just got Giratina's head. I absolutely hate it. I hate these genre of monsters. This thing is definitely a borrowed design. They took Giratina's head. I don't know how they thought they'd get away with that. Anubis, we've already talked about Anubis. Jormuntide, I mean, you could maybe like say it's similar to Gyarados, but like there's other franchises with monsters that are like this, so I'm gonna say it's an original design. There you go. Suzaku, yeah, I think that's an original design. I can't really compare that to anything from Pokemon. I actually quite like that thing. That's really cool. Grisbolt, the closest thing we can compare it to, I would say, is like Electivire or Electabuzz, but I think it's different enough to where it's like, nah, that's its own thing. Original design right there. Next up is Lylene. I think I made a joke about it being like Lilligant with a few extra steps. It's very close, but like I think it's overall probably an original design. I mean, I'll put it in 50-50 because I think without Lilligant they couldn't have gotten to this point. I think Lilligant might have been the inspiration. So I'll say it's walking a line. I'll say it's walking a thin line. That tier actually definitely helps me make my decisions. Phalaris, it's walking a line. I don't know if it's really borrowed anything, but it's quite similar to Corviknight in a lot of ways. So I will say it's walking a thin line too. Orzhok, people are comparing this to Garchomp body-wise. I think it's different enough to say it's an original design. We have one that's straight up called Shadowbeak. This thing kind of sucks. I really don't like this thing's design at all. People were saying it's similar to Silvally. You know, I think it's just too edgy, to be honest. I'll say it's an original design though. I don't really see the Silvally argument. There's Palladust right here, which I want to say that's Ceruledge. I'm sorry, that's a borrowed design. That is just straight up Ceruledge. And then they also have another one. They have two of them, and they're counted as two separate monsters. They're definitely like Ceruledge and Armarouge. Like they're definitely borrowed. Unfortunately, we have Frostalion, which yeah, I don't really care for this thing's design, but I can't really say it's anything. I mean, oh, Suicune's face. It's walking a line. It's walking a line. There's something going on here. And then we've got Jetagron or Jetagon. People are comparing this to Gladios Latias, like Salamence. Nah, this is an original design. I think this is fine. And with that is all the Palworld monsters ranked. I think the ones that are in the borrowed design category are ones I would suggest get a redesign of some sort. Maybe not so much Lavander, like you can maybe get away with like Lavander being that way, but I think for the rest of them, I think like the borrowed design, like I think the borrowed design category, they should be redesigned or changed in some way so they're a bit more original. I would love to see the 50-50 walking a line and borrowed design. I'd love to see all of those be changed, and even honestly some of the original designs are just not great in my opinion. I'd love to see them updated. I don't think they will necessarily. A lot of them are just amateurish in my opinion, but there's some really good designs here in Palworld I actually really like. If I like them, I definitely made comment about it. Let me know if you think I'm tripping about any of these. Let me know if you disagree, whatever. But I hope that this clears up some of my opinions on it. There's definitely stuff here that are from Pokemon, but like it's not as egregious as you would think, I would say. But yeah, that's my video. Thank you for watching.